Which What's up, guys? Welcome to today's Pure Shaddoll deck profile. I put up a poll earlier today asking what deck profile you guys want to see. So without further ado, I decided to do the one that had the most votes on it. And so you guys all wanted to see Pure Shaddoll control, so I figured I'd show it to you guys. This is a list that I've actually played way before the Advanced Pater Alec meta. I've actually been playing this deck ever since the structure deck came out. Because every time structure decks came out, like the first thing I do is that I look to see if the deck is like viable as a rogue strategy, especially from a budget competitive standpoint. Like sometimes it can be really expensive to like play the meta deck. So like I always look into like structure decks whenever they come out to see if I can build a nice affordable rogue competitive contender for the meta game. Like for example, this deck right here is probably like under $200 if you include access code. If you don't have to play that package, like you still OTK without it. So I would say like if you play this whole deck probably without access code, probably like $100, which is like a really good thing to like do. Without further ado, guys, I'll walk you guys into like the deck profile. So I'm playing 12 hand traps right now. All these hand traps are relatively pretty cheap except for like the Nibiru. Like they're like the only expensive one, but like Phantasmic got reprinted. Valor has like infinite prints. Ash got a lot of prints. So these are like the 12 hand traps. I think these 12 hand traps are really powerful. You play Valor over Imperm because Valor is a light, which synergizes really well for you to make Construct. So it's really strong. In terms of the Shaddoll lineup, also like going back to Phantasmic. Phantasmic I think is one of like the best, most underrated hand trap this format. The fact that it can like draw you into more hand traps, especially when you play 12, or the fact that like it can shuffle back cards you don't want to see in your opening hand, like multiple Shaddoll fusions, multiple L's. Is really powerful, and the fact that it's a dark and a 2400 monster is really strong as well. Next, I play 2 Aerial. I think Aerial is really OP this format. Like every time I resolve Aerial's effect to DD Crow for 3, I've always been in like such a crazy, like the deck grinds really well, and when you DD Crow them for 3 cards, like it puts them in a very like bad game state. And like it prevents their opponent from recovering. In testing, I've aerialed someone's block dragon and just completely won the game from there, just because like I just kept window on the board and they just couldn't out window essentially because I just DD crowed all their block dragon. So that's really powerful. You play 3 Wendy, it's like the best one. Wendy's just like it's so strong. The flip effect or the graveyard effect is really powerful. You play double Beast. Beast is really strong as well. The fact that you can draw 2 cards, and whenever you use this material, you draw 1 card. It's one of those cards you don't want to see, but I still would play it too. Just because you can send it off Shaddoll Fusion, but also like you want to summon it off Wendy most of the time. And then you play double Falco. I like Falco a lot because it's a spellcaster tuner. Why that's really important is so Falco can actually reborn back any of your Shaddoll monster, which makes it really hard for you to die because all your cards will float. So for example, if you have a set Falco, they'll attack your Falco. Falco can bring back Wendy, and then when they attack Wendy, Wendy can summon another monster. And so like you'll see there that it's like a really strong loop. The other thing is if you ever use Falco as a material, you can just summon it back in face down defense. So Falco is really strong. The other thing that's really powerful about Falco is that it's a tuner. It's a spellcaster level 2 tuner, which means you can actually make Needle Fiber with it or summon it off Fiber, which lets you make Celine and then go for game that way. So it's really powerful for that. You only play 1 Hog. It's like okay. It just substitute for any of your other ones if it's used as material. And if it can add any spell or trap that's Shaddoll monster if it's flip. It's like okay. I just play it as a 1-of. You play triple Skomata because this replaces any of your Shaddoll cards, so it's really strong. Fills your graveyard. Then you play the 1 Dragon just for back row decks, because that being able to like pop is really powerful. Also the effect to like target 1 card your opponent control and return to the hand is also really insane as well. I think the way you play Shaddoll like in a pure variant as well as a control variant is you have to manage your resources really well. And this deck like kind of like teaches you to do that, so I highly recommend this deck for like newer players, for them to get into like the meta game. A very cheap deck and still very powerful contender. Then you play triple El Shaddoll Fusion. This card is really insane. El Shaddoll on your opponent's turn is really powerful. Usually when they summon, like for example against the Adamancer matchup, if they go like special summon like Analyzer, just flip El Shaddoll Fusion, they just like skip their turn. So it's really powerful for that. Then you have triple Shaddoll fusion. It's like insane going first or second. More notably going second. It's just like really strong. Be able to like you bait through all their interruption. You lower their end board with all the hand traps, and then when you Shaddoll fusion them, you kind of just win. The craziest thing about Shaddoll fusion is that most interruption or most boards actually don't end up on spell trap negates. You see they usually end up on just one savage nowadays, which means that like and sometimes they don't even get to the savage if you like hand trap them correctly, which means that like Shaddoll fusion will resolve, which allows you to like kind of push the game and swing it in your favor because you gain way too much advantage off one card. Then you play triple Dino Mishes. This card is really powerful. The fact that it triggers off your dolls and the banish effect is really relevant. Being able to banish the Golden Lord, the Block Dragon, any of their traps and back row is really powerful. There's not much to say about Dino Mishes. It's just a really strong card. It has really wonderful utility, and there's no replacement for this really. It's just like really powerful. The fact that it synergizes well with your Shaddolls makes this card like not as minus, and the fact that you can actually, when you trigger off like Resh or Sinister Shaddoll game, you can chain Dino Missions to get a free body as well for the following turn. Then you have like Resh Shaddoll Incarnation. This card is really insane. I would actually bump this card up, but the thing is I'm playing triple Torrential instead. But anyways, I'm playing the Resh Shaddoll. I mean, there's not much to say. This card is really crazy. It helps your grind game. The fact that you can recur it with Construct makes it really powerful. It makes your grind game like infinite. So that's why like Resh Shaddoll Incarnation is really powerful. Sinister Shadow Game, which is a one-of card that I teched in. I really like this card because for example, like it makes you make use of the flip effects of your Shaddoll monsters, and the really coolest thing you can do is you can go like Dino Missions, dump Wendy, banish a card, Wendy set like either Beast, Squamata, Dragon, whatever you need at the moment, then flip Sinister Shadow Game. You flip the card you have set flipped up, and then you trigger whatever you send off Shadow Game. So that's really powerful. The thing about Sinister Shadow Game that makes it really nuts is that you can always you don't need a set monster to make this card live. It's an optional effect to change from face down to face up, which means like you can just activate the first effect to trigger any Shaddoll monster for free. So at best, it's like a Wendy. No, at worst, it's just, send Wendy summon. But at best, it's able to trigger multiple Shaddoll cards, and create overwhelming advantage for you on the opponent's turn. Then I think the spiciest tech, I think Torrential Tribute. This card is absolutely the nuts. It triggers all your Shaddolls and they all float. So it's really powerful for that. You gain a lot of pluses off the Torrential, and the Torrential just board wipes it for you, which makes it super easy for you to like try and OTK them the following turn. That's why I think Torrential is like so insane right now. Not much to say about this. I really like this card in pure Shaddolls. I mean, if you really think about it, this deck has 12 hand traps plus 3 Shaddoll fusion. It shouldn't have a lot of problems going second in the current metagame. And especially if you hand trap like the Needle Fiber against a combo Elec deck, right? They usually leave the Needle Fiber, or they leave like Auroradon, etc., depending on how you hand trap them. And resolving Shaddoll fusion in that matchup is so powerful, and it swings the tempo in your favor just because you go +3 just off one Shaddoll fusion. It's really insane. For the extra deck, I have 2 Super Poly targets. The Starving Venom. I play this because I play Super Poly on the side, but mainly just for the FTK. You just want to be able to like prevent yourself from getting FTK game 2 and 3, like increase the highest chance of that as much as possible. You play the Earth Golem Ignister just because the Rock board ends on IP and ends on Appaloosa, so you can just fuse both of them with just Super Poly, which is really powerful. Next. It also has really good utility because if you read it, it has an effect that people don't read. When it attacks a monster, especially someone from the extract, for example, their Borlo's Savage, you can actually make this card gain equal to the attack. So like this card, Super Poly into Earth Golem, destroys the Appaloosa and the IP. Then you can attack over Borlo's Savage to bait it out. Then main phase 2 activate Shaddoll fusion and like just swing the tempo in your favor. Then you play double App Cologne, double Construct, double Window. I like these cards a lot. I play 2 of each of them. Unfortunately, I would play triple Construct, but you just don't have the room. And also in Pure, you don't really have light monsters except for like the Nibiru or the Effect Veiler. So it doesn't come as much for you to always be making Construct. But App Cologne is really powerful. It's a targeting effect that it negates it on the field forever. So it's really strong for that. Double Construct, I mean, there's not much to say. It's Construct. And then double Window, just like to lock. Then you play the Access Code, the Claw Sheep, the Fiber, Nightmare Phoenix, and the Unicorn. These are just like utility links, as well as like Hauki Fiber X, as I explained before with Falco, lets you go for the OTK. And then you play the Nightmare package just to like bait out back row, like push through boards, link off cards. It's really powerful for that. I'm thinking about potentially cutting off one of the Nightmare Phoenix or the Unicorn for the link one monster that shuffles back your opponent's links by linking off one monster in the extra monster zone. It can come up sometimes where you want to link off the construct. And then Proxy F Magician. This card is insane. Not a lot of people know about this card, but basically what it does is it lets you fusion summon one monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or using monsters from your field. This is really powerful because it lets you push for a lot of damage. So I really like this card, and it lets you push for essentially like an access code really easily with Proxy F. It's really powerful. It's basically like it's a polymerization on like link monster. So there's not much to say about it. It's also a fire, which adds another attribute for the access code. Same with Cross Sheep. So like you have Needle Fiber, Selene, Cross Sheep, and Proxy. So you have 4 attributes for access code, which makes it really powerful for access code as well. Then you play the triple Super Poly. I really like this card because it prevents FTK, it breaks the Emancipator board, and you just want like as many cards to break the Emancipator boards as possible. So that's why I'm playing like triple Dark Ruler, triple Super Poly. Should be like a decent amount. And then you have like the Cosmic Cyclone for the back row deck, Evenly Match for the back row deck, Pancratops, it's a generic side against any deck, and then Solemn Judgment for going first. You want to have like just in case they like put in blowout cards like Evenly Match, or because you don't really have a way to play around it. I mean, you can play around it really well, but you just want to have Solemn Judgment. It's like the fact that it can negate a summon, any spell and trap is really powerful. It just makes your go first even stronger. But that's pretty much it, guys, for the pure Shaddoll controlled deck profile. I'll actually be going live on Twitch at twitch.tv/pack_official_TCG, where I'll be playing this deck on rank tonight. So by the time you guys see this video, I'll be online live. So if you guys want to go check me out, play this deck live, and see how you pilot this deck, successfully, definitely come check out my Twitch, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this deck profile, and